is a station, so it wasn't that big a need to separate it into a lot of chunks because it doesn't randomize other than the other people who see the station. This is just going to repeat sort of with the walls, same sort of thing. And we'll just move on to the editor. Now we did end up with an editor. It's hard to make a game without one, but it's not particularly complicated. Like I said, we didn't want to have to take and process each room, for hours and hours after you made it, because that just slows it at bit rate. You have to do it every time. So what we had is a way to just bring it in and preview it with running with the game engine to make sure that all the textures are in properly. This is where we converted our textures into the DDS format and specified what kind of material shader it would have, how glossy the surface is and things like that. But pretty simple tools, pretty standardized. And within these tools is where we create the layouts, we place the trees and cars and trucks and phone booths and all the little things that make each room always slightly different than it was the first one. So this. We'll go through how we generate the path nodes. Pretty short clip, but you bring the building in, and then you can preview, what it looks like, make sure everything, there's no gaps or anything, what the spectral lighting looks like, and then check out the collision geometry to make sure it's all there. And then run. Now there's the icon. We just toggle through the different bits and pieces. Make sure all the debug geometry is in there. And then for editing path nodes, it basically just draws rings down an array of equally spaced path nodes and open up a road file here and show how that works. And this, like I was saying before, this is just how the monsters can quickly navigate around the world without having to simulate real-time collision on every unit in the game. And it also determines where things spawn, because all the spawns, we don't place monsters individually, we just determine the density. So okay, this level we want to have 80 monsters spread throughout the level. And that's a great design tool to do it as well, because we don't have to go in and delete spawn nodes or something manually. We just change the number to spreadsheet and we can fill a level up or make it empty. And those path nodes, just showing all the connections and jumps between them. And then when the layouts get created and you drop a car into this, it will basically occupy those path nodes so someone doesn't spawn inside the car. Move forward. Okay, here's a quick illustration of the layout aspect of the tool. You go and you open a room, select the layout feature, and each of these are just groups of objects. And we can make as many or as few of these as one. It just turns into a text file, and it just tells it where to find the particular truck, just where to look for the folder, and what position and relative location is. And then we can set values on that, say show up 10% of the time or 5% of the time. And then within the group, you do the same thing. Say, okay, I want to do a construction group. So I make a little construction scene. It's like a little play set. It's kind of fun, really. You say, okay, I want to pretend like this is where a bunch of Templar were hacked to death. And so you can place dead bodies around or any sort of thing you can think of. So that's one of the rooms as empty as possible. That way we could go through and put a lot of street lamps on one, trees on other ones, have different boulevards or trash, roll, any sort of thing. So this is just cycling through all the options for this room. And that's everything drawn at once, and then you can hit the roll button and do a random roll to see what comes up. And then you can start tweaking and say, okay, well, the bus comes up too often, or the drain pipe. So it looks too unique. One of the things about making a random roll is the more unique and gritty something is, the more obvious it is when it repeats. So you have to do a balance between obvious and interesting. That's where tools like this really help us, because we can minimize the number of rooms and assets we need to still have interesting options. So here, same sort of thing with the building front. So it's some with scaffolding out front, different awnings, different sets of boxes and fires and hell rifts. And so we called groups of these things themes. And so we can have a theme, like an emergency rescue vehicle theme, and fill the whole level with ambulances and police cars or whatever, military items. Guy Fawkes Day we just had recently online where everything's on fire and blown up. He was the famous bomber guy. And this would be fun if you craft special bombs and things like that. So the downside of having an online game is you're constantly working on it. But that's the fun side too, because you get to keep whatever idea you have, within a couple of weeks or a month, you could have it in the game and people can be enjoying it. But unfortunately, we didn't get to take a break. Okay. So this, a couple examples of the city, how it can change from, it's the same set of buildings, same set of streets, but we have, different environment file, different theme going on the right, the back box. And, here's SimCity again, but with the street taken away and the buildings squashed together for an alley type of feel. And it's a little dark on the left, but that's kind of a greenish poison level. And then so to wrap it all up, so I think it's about that time. It was pretty much creating a random world, 3D style. Like I said, it's a gameplay that we like because it's always interesting. It's fun to develop on a random game because every time you play it, something else is happening. You don't get too bored with it. And then when everybody else gets to see it, you get to wow with how crazy big your world is, and you only had to make 20 buildings. So anyway, that wraps it up. I don't know if we do a Q&A or... Okay, sure. Maybe bring the house lights back up. And if anybody has any questions, raise a hand. Yeah.
Just with your polygon house, how did you initially sort of estimate what you're going to start with?
Well, that's a good question. You asked the question, how many poly count, what kind of ballpark did we originally pick? And I don't remember exactly how we came up with it, but we just started building, and our graphics guy kept saying, okay, that works, that works. Now, it kind of bit us a little bit in the end, because we started on the buildings, I think were probably roughly 50,000 polys for each particular building. But then once the seating population, you get kind of buildings on the level. We went through some iterations there where originally our lighting engine for outdoors was actually was generated real time for the game, but it was pre-computed once the game was running. So it was a light map, and every individual match had to have one. So we ended up with hundreds of light maps being generated. So we ended up scrapping that and going to straight up real time. And when we did that, we could add the layout objects. So that's when we stripped out all the small details like the aerial antennas and drain pipes and awnings and all those little things that clutter up the facade of the building. We pulled those out, so that really helped frame rate as well, or poly counts, because then we could make the building very particular. And they drop down to about 10,000, depending on how rubbled up it is. But then with all the props actually, I didn't even mention this, but everything in the game has 2 levels of detail. We have a really low poly version, and then what we were seeing here, all the high poly stuff, which makes our low-end system spec really more than we typically find with this style of game. And that we just literally created a separate mesh, and it doesn't have all the debug data, it just has the origin, because all the debug data stays the same. So as far as poly counts, we just winged it for a while, and then we figured out ways to optimize a little better, and then we had to come up with new debug things to call things and stuff like that. But, the characters and weapons and all that was a lot more fixed from the get-go, and I think we just based that off of other games, what they were doing, and what took it to result. In the same with the characters, we did low poly versions of everything, so if you don't low poly, you end up with a decent looking game, but it looks old. It looks about 4 years old tech, but it plays well. So the big part of the game was just getting online and playing it. So we wanted to make sure we could access a big market. Anybody else?
I just want to entirely bring it. Were the material IDs used to generate that path nodes, or was that a manual process?
What was that? The material IDs and path nodes?
Yeah, you had a slide that had
yeah.
Was that based on material IDs, or was it something manually?
No, it was based on material ID, and so that tells you what's a floor and the sound. But with knowing it's a floor, we just go into the tool there and hit generate path nodes, and it would automatically generate it. So we had to manually hit the button and then proof it and make sure that things connected the way you wanted to, and that you didn't accidentally tag a wall as a floor or something like that. But it was all automatically generated.
And that would color them out then too if you had a piece of light out.
What's that?
Was that called out as well?
Oh yeah. If you drop the car down, it would draw. In the tool, it didn't show that, but it would show you like the radius around, what's being blocked out. So you could check that too to make sure that you didn't block the hallway off by accident or something that put the car in the middle of it. In back.
Given that you had the technical guidelines of being